I think sometimes you need to pause and reflect. It's easy to just go, go, go. But I think having a dedicated day, hour, time to yourself, to just sit and think about stuff and not always think about work is helpful too.
Hey there, welcome to the Freelance Cake podcast. I'm your host, Austin L. Church, founder of the Freelance Cake community. The goal of this show is to help full-time committed freelancers get better leverage. As the sworn enemy of busyness and burnout, I have no desire whatsoever to see you work harder. So I reveal the specific beliefs, principles, and practices you can use right away to make the freelance game more profitable and satisfying. So chill out, listen in, because the best is yet to come. Welcome to another episode of the Freelance Cake podcast. At a certain stage of freelancing, the challenge stops being how to get work, and it becomes how to grow with intention. Maybe your income is solid, so is your client roster. Things look good from the outside, but internally, you know there's another level available. One with less chaos, more alignment, one where you build smarter with better opportunities. That's exactly what this conversation is about. My guest is Satta Sarmah Hightower. Satta is a former journalist turned B2B content marketer who has built a multi-six-figure freelance business serving companies in government tech, climate tech, and fintech. She's also the author of The Forever Freelancer, a book about building a long-term, sustainable solo career on your own terms. I've been looking forward to sharing this conversation because Satta has such a grounded perspective on what growth really looks like after the early years. This isn't a conversation about hype, overnight success, or chasing trends. It's about evolving from reactive freelancing into strategic business ownership. Satta and I talk about the shift from accidentally following the money to intentionally choosing your next move. She shares her monkey bar strategy for using adjacent experience to move into better niches and more valuable work. We also get into the identity shift from seeing yourself as a freelancer defined by your craft to seeing yourself as a business owner who can shape your trajectory on purpose. Sometimes growth means going narrower, going deeper, and getting clearer on what enough looks like for you. Growth also means gratitude, recovery time, mindset, and the systems that help experienced freelancers keep growing without burning out. And if you've been thinking beyond client work, you'll appreciate our conversation about intellectual property, why Satta wrote her book, how it fits into her larger business strategy, and how freelancers can build assets that create value beyond billable hours. If you're ready for more intentional growth and a business that truly supports your life, this episode is for you. You can learn more about Satta and join the waitlist for her book at sattasarmah.com/book. That's SATTASARMAH.com/book. In the show notes, we'll link to that along with her Substack and everything else we mentioned. And now, please enjoy my conversation with Satta Sarmah Hightower. Satta, I have been looking forward to this conversation for a number of reasons. One, because I have a lot of respect for you. Two, because you wrote a freaking book. And three, because you have such good perspective on like the whole spectrum of topics that more advanced freelancers face, must consider, that sort of thing. Let's start not at the beginning, but maybe at the last 2 to 3 years. For those folks who don't know you, don't know about your work, give us the snapshot.
So I am a former journalist turned content marketer, and I specialize in B2B content marketing for tech companies. So primarily government tech, climate tech, and fintech companies. So my
Uh,
work day to day, I'm on the phone a lot, interviewing executives and officials, people with fancy titles or really deep technical expertise. And I'm either writing executive bylines, so ghostwriting for executives or writing white papers, ebooks, long form stuff, doing a mix of content strategy work depending on the client engagement. So,
so lots of conversations that then become content.
correct. Yeah. I feel like I use my journalism muscle in this job every day. I couldn't do the work I do now if I wasn't a journalist first and if I didn't have storytelling skills that I've built over the course of my career.
So, and I know a little bit about this, but again, I'm going to ask you these questions just to help. You didn't just jump right into that. I'm guessing there was an iterative process that helped you arrive at this focus. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think when I first started freelancing, because I was a journalist, I thought to be a freelancer, I had to do freelance journalism. So I did start doing reporting as a freelance writer, as a journalist. One of my first clients, believe it or not, was the magazine Fast Company.
Oh yeah.
Um, and they still exist today. It's a business magazine, and I ended up going on contract with them because my former colleague ended up working with them as an editor on contract too, and he hired me, which is typically what happens in freelancing when you kick off your business. It's people you know, it's working your network, and these people give you opportunities. So I started doing mostly journalism, and then I gradually started doing content marketing and then doing sort of like internal comms. And then I just, to be honest, I went where the money went, where the money was, and where the opportunity was. Because I saw that content marketing was growing. I actually managed an in house. Back then, it was called native advertising, which is like the precursor to content marketing. I managed a native advertising studio for AOL. And a big part of my job was doing sponsorships with Fortune 500 clients and big brands. So I already had that foundation. But for some reason, it didn't click. And I managed freelancers in that job. But it didn't click to me when became a freelancer. Oh, I can be on the other side of the table and producing the content and making money that way too. I think because I was a journalist, I sort of went with what I was comfortable with.
There's comfort on the one hand, and then I went, I followed the money. Um, for what, and I know this is probably not a single event, but more an evolution over a period of years. But what went on in your mind when you started to follow the money? What was your thought process?
I mean, I don't think I was as strategic as I could have been. And I was in survival mode. I'd been laid off twice back to back, and now is working for myself. So if there was an opportunity and it paid well, and there was and a chance to build a long-term relationship with a client, then that's what I went with. And then I built from there. Over the years, I'd say in the last 4 or 5 years, I've become a lot more strategic in my business. I think I talked to you about this last year during the what was it, Freelance Without Burnout Summit about the whole monkey bar strategy, like going from one monkey bar to the next. Like I landed in enterprise tech by accident. Like I started doing like healthcare writing for a hospital, a major hospital in Orlando, which is where we lived at the time. And so I had that healthcare foundation. And then I got a new client who wanted me to write a white paper that was in the healthcare tech realm. So because I had that like foundation of healthcare writing experience, I parlayed that into healthcare tech. And I've done that with other things. Like if I'm writing financial services, parlay that into fintech. There are all these different, like, I would say vertical or horizontal alignments between things and industries that you can use to grow your business.
So, was there a specific time when your growth shifted from being more accidental to more strategic to more monkey bars? Like you see the next bar and then you see the bar after that, and then I'm guessing you make a plan to move from one bar to the next. Was there a shift?
Yeah, I think around 2021, 2022, I felt like I had plateaued, like I was making a significant income. I had quadrupled my last full-time salary within 8 years. I had a multi six-figure business. Between 2015 and 2023, my income grew on average like 22% a year. But I still wanted more. I wanted not just more, I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to do different things. So I made the decision to hire a coach, our friend who you know, Ed Gandia. And I think he really shifted my perspective, to really see myself as more of a solopreneur, a business owner, and to bring more of a strategic lens to my business. And I told him, "Oh, I'm doing a lot of this work now, but I want to do more of this work." So we created a plan. I was in his coaching program called Boardroom for a year. And that was great because I could have one-on-one sessions with Ed. There were other freelancers in the program, and we would bounce ideas off of each other. So I think making that investment in myself and getting that outside voice and that outside view really helped to shift my mindset. Because as you know, a lot of this, especially when you work for yourself, is a mindset. It's not just about doing; it's about the thinking part of it too.
Was the title or identity, you mentioned solopreneur, was that
Mhm.
important? Like, um, help me better understand, you know, Sada as someone who's accidentally building a freelance career to Sada as solopreneur who's making strategic moves in her business to build a lifestyle that she wants. Like, how important was calling yourself something to yourself?
I don't think it was a conscious decision right away. A lot of freelancers, especially when you're a freelance writer, you identify yourself with the craft and not with the business you're in. So we'll
Mm,
see ourselves as writers or designers or editors or what have you. But we don't often see ourselves as business owners right away. And I think it's important just in general that there's a whole spectrum of entrepreneurship. And often it's painted as either you're a brick and mortar mom and pop shop type business or you're a billion-dollar unicorn, but there's a whole spectrum in between. And I think we as freelancers and as solo business owners, we sit on that spectrum. So I think calling myself a solopreneur, which I've started to do a lot more recently, um, was important for me bringing really treating myself as a business and thinking of myself as a business and acting accordingly rather
mhm.
than just saying, "Oh, I'm a freelance writer, I'm a freelance content marketer." No, I am a business owner, I am a solopreneur.
What changed? Like, after you started thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a solopreneur, and some people may not be able to see this, but I'll put this in air quotes, instead of just a freelancer, what changed for you?
I think I became more intentional about my business, what work I would and wouldn't take. And if I did take on a certain project, it was like, I'm doing it for this specific reason. This can serve me in this specific way 3 months or 6 months down the line. Not just doing things, for lack of a better term, are willy nilly. Like, okay, you want me to do this thing for this much? Okay, great. I'll take it. Thanks. I'm so appreciative. Thank you. I'm so grateful. It became no, I own my trajectory and my business growth and my professional growth, and I'm going to be more intentional about the decisions I make to get to that growth.
That intentionality is so important. That said,
For
um, and I know that this show is primarily for more advanced freelancers.
Yeah.
Let's let's say that there are some folks listening who are more advanced and don't actually know that about themselves yet, right? Um,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to people who maybe still are in their willy-nilly era and need to move into their intentional era? Like, can you identify some of the things that you felt or some of the thoughts that you had where you finally needed to fully own and be intentional about being a business owner, going all in, so to speak?
Well, I don't think it's just the thinking, I think it's the doing. Like, I always say you need to treat your business like a business. And I think what that means is we can take signals from what big enterprise companies do. They do strategic planning, they have SOPs, they have processes and defined workflows. So I think it's important as freelancers that we adopt some of those same practices and sit down and do a strategic plan, and that can even just be one page or sit down. Maybe this is part of where the thinking comes in. Think about what do I want? And maybe that's, during your slow periods, because we all have them from time to time throughout the year, or Q4, the start of Q4, you sit down, be intentional about it. Maybe take a weekend, a Saturday or Sunday. I've heard this thing with founders that they love Sundays, like Sundays are their planning days. It helps them get ready for the weekend, set it up. So I think maybe take a Sunday and sit down and say, for 2 hours, I'm going to think and brainstorm about what I want for my business within the next 3 months, 6 months,
Mm.
a year. What are some of my personal professional goals? You can put them into the business bucket, into the passion project bucket, and go from there. But I think you need to memorialize what it is you want to do and put it on paper so that you can have something to refer back to.
2 hours is so achievable. What do you do with that piece of paper or those pages in your journal? Do they sit next to you on your desk? Do you reference them once a week? What happens afterward?
Well, I do everything in Google Docs, so I'll periodically look at things. And sometimes things don't go according to plan. Sometimes you have to go with where the winds of the market are going, to maintain your business and keep it resilient. And honestly, I don't look at those things as much as I should, but I think having them is important.
I think your track record proves that. Just having them, even in the back of your mind, is better
Mhm.
than never taking those 2 hours, gathering your thoughts, maybe even more than your thoughts, gathering your wants, right? But I want to go back to something else you said. Um, you decided to hire a coach. That was really helpful for getting outside perspective. Sounds like it was also helpful for you articulating, I want more of this type of work. At what point did your outreach and your lead generation and your process capture begin to attach to the type of work you really wanted instead of the type of work that was just coming to you? Speaking of intentionality.
Yeah, within 2 weeks of crafting the plan that we developed together and implementing it, within 2 weeks, I got a client that turned
Whoa.
into a long-term client because it was about like repositioning and messaging. So that's what I did on, my website, on LinkedIn, anywhere I had a brand presence, a quote unquote brand presence. I did that. I told a consistent brand story. And then within
Mm.
2 weeks, I had a client that turned into a long-term client that I generated multi six figures in revenue from over several years. So yeah, it worked right away.
So I think that takes courage. Did
Mhm.
you doubt the path?
I mean, of course, there's some skepticism, like, is this really going to work? But I had a fail safe. I still maintained my current client base. I have a client that I still work for to this day that I've been working for the last 10 years. I've been a freelancer for 12 years. They're not my only client, but I have that base on which to build from. So I wasn't at a safety net. I wasn't like taking this leap and abandoning all my old clients. It was gradually moving more toward the type of work I wanted to do, or the type of work I wanted rather to incorporate into my business to diversify it more and
Mm.
to more align with the things that I was interested in that moment and going forward.
That just sounds so much more humane and so much kinder. And I don't know that that approach gets talked about enough. You use the word gradually. You did it over time. Why why do more people not talk about the gradual approach? And this is me going off script. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
I think because people, when we think of the word transformation, we make it seem like this big bang change or shift in our lives or in what we're doing in our business, what have you. But I think transformation is often incremental. And I think
Hmm.
for you to de risk it as much as possible, as much as is feasible, it has to be incremental. You can't just blow up your whole business because the mortgage still has to be paid, the kids still have to be fed. You have to make it gradually. And also, you have to pressure test whether that shift is actually right for you, whether the direction you're moving in is actually what you thought it would be.
That's
Because
right.
sometimes you get there and it isn't. It's like, oh, I thought I wanted this, but no, no thanks. So,
Yeah, and
yeah, so it has to be gradual.
that is such a good point. And I think the idea that I have to know for certain that this is what I want actually prevents people from being intentional, when in fact it's better to think of any new direction as an experiment. Like, why would I go all in if I don't know I like it? So, how did you think about testing a new direction?
I think you just take it project by project, client by client. And if you like it, you continue on and you say, oh, maybe I try to go further down this path or get more clients in this realm. Because there's natural, when you're a freelancer or solo business owner, there's natural attrition. Like clients fall off, things evolve. And so when those opportunities present themselves, you have a path in your mind for what you want to replace it
Mhm.
with. So it's just, again, that gradual approach and gradual process and thinking through, okay, where do I want to go next?
So, I want to pull together some threads and give you a chance to respond.
Mhm.
In your career, it was a whole lot of accidental and following the money until eventually you shifted to being more intentional. And part of that shift came when you hired a coach. And then you stated or articulated, I think I want more of this type of work. You put together a plan. That plan required you to change your positioning. I'm guessing maybe you tweaked some offers too. Is that right?
Well, the way I work, and I know, and this may be taboo, I don't do like a productized offers per se. I'll do like a custom proposal because it varies by client. Um, so no, so tweaking my offers wasn't part of it because I didn't have set packages on my website. That's just never been a part of the way I work, even though I know there's value in that.
So toss that out. Um, there's positioning, but then within 2 weeks, you had quote unquote published your positioning. You'd gone public with it. And then you were giving yourself a chance to see how much you enjoyed this new direction or that type of work. That strikes me as a pretty smart and repeatable um, career development path for experienced freelancers. What else would you add, especially for folks who are more advanced and yet need to be more intentional?
I think one of the biggest mistakes I've made in my freelance journey is not investing in myself sooner. Like, I think I had career PTSD or trauma from being laid off twice and having, you have these fancy degrees from these big name schools. And I found myself working for $10 an hour in a testing
Ooh.
center. And that does something to you, even as you progress from that and you advance in your career. It makes you hoard resources. So I got to a point where I was making a significant amount of money, more than I had ever made before. And I know there are probably a lot of freelancers who will listen to this or watch this and be in the same position. But I was hoarding resources. I was over saving. I was like, if this happens to me again, I'm going to be even more prepared. I'm not going to find myself working for $10 an hour. If I have to, I'll do what I need to do. So I would say if you are making enough money and you are fine, you have a roof over your head and food in your belly, take those resources and reinvest in yourself and your career development and in your business. Businesses, large enterprises do this. They make strategic investments. They do R&D. They are always looking ahead for what's next. So you have the resources, use those things to propel your growth. And that's what I did with coaching. That's what I've done with my book. So find those opportunities that thread the needle between profitability and passion and invest in them.
So good. And also harder than it sounds, right? When you still have that scarcity mindset. And I think the challenge with scarcity mindset is people
Mhm.
don't walk around thinking, I have scarcity mindset.
No, no, they just
It
behave
seems
that way.
so
Yeah,
rational to
yeah,
not hoard, but conserve resources when you know what it's like to not have enough. But
yeah.
before we shift gears and talk more about the book and maybe even building your own IP, I want to invert the conversation we just had. This is going to sound negative, but I think it will be interesting. Um,
Okay.
what does growth not look like when you've been self employed for a long time?
That is an awesome question. And I would say growth, at least for me at this stage, it doesn't necessarily mean going wider. It means going narrower and going deeper. So I think there's a tendency when you're in any type of business, whether that's a solo business or a big business that reaps millions in revenue or billions in revenue, to think more is growth, like more clients, more revenue, more customers, more. And for me personally, I've never aspired to be like an agency and like build a bigger business in that way with employees that I have to manage. Like when I was in a full-time role, I had to manage employees before. It's not for me. It's not something that I aspire to. I trust myself more than I trust anyone else. And maybe I'm a control freak in that way, but I think you have to know what your enough is, and you have to know what growth looks like for you and what how you define more before you proceed with anything else. You need to know yourself.
That is so true. Because otherwise, how easy is it to listen to a podcast or have a conversation with a successful friend and they say, Sada, you need to build a team. And
Yeah,
if you didn't know yourself, you could be convinced of that because that is a good path for some people,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, let's talk IP. Why don't we start with IP in general, the way you think about it specifically for freelancers and solopreneurs, and then we'll talk some about the book.
Well, I think for me, IP, intellectual property, is something you own, something that is a durable or evergreen asset that you can continue to derive value from, even when you're not touching it every day. I, uh, Essentially, it's making money. It's something that helps you make money in your sleep. This is how I look at IP for the most part, even though there are different forms of it. And for freelancers, that can be something like a newsletter, a Substack newsletter that you've monetized. It can be something like Freelance Cake, which you've done and create a whole community for advanced freelancers, or it can be something like I've done and written a book that, hopefully it won't necessarily be evergreen in terms of 20 years from now. It'll still be relevant. I will have to update it at different editions, but for the foreseeable future, it will be relevant and people can continue to purchase it and derive value from it.
When did you become interested in this?
Well, I've always wanted to write a book. I think anyone who becomes a journalist always aspires to write a book one day. This isn't the book I thought I would write, but it's the book I was meant to write. I really feel, and I felt comfortable now, 12 years in. Well, when I started writing the book, I was 11 years in, to feel like that I had something to share and wisdom to impart, and that I had a message to share that was bigger than just, oh, become a freelancer. To me, it's the message I'm sharing is much bigger than that. Um,
Well, now you've piqued my curiosity. What's the message?
so my book isn't just about how to freelance, it's about why to freelance and why, and how women can design a career on their own terms that's purpose built for their lives and that provides more flexibility, financial agency, and autonomy. So I really view self employment as an avenue to get there. Because I think we are living in a world now with return to office mandates, layoffs. I think during the pandemic, people thought it was like this great recalibration. Like they got a taste of working from home and some of that independence and honestly working more productively. And they figured, I would love to do this going forward. And then you see now employers clawing back on that, or, there's a lot of contraction in the market. And I think people just want more control and more ownership, not of just their careers, but of their own lives. So I think this book is really timely in that way.
So, women who are going to be forever freelancers,
Mhm.
what are they doing differently than women who will end up going back to working for someone else and maybe be frustrated by that?
Well, I think the book is really geared towards mid-career women. So they're using their skills as leverage, as the ultimate leverage. And they also, mindset is important in this. You have to stick with it even when it's hard. Like this is a practical, honest roadmap. It's not like overnight success promises. Like, oh, be a freelancer and you'll make $100,000 in your pajamas within a month. That's not what I'm selling here.
Yeah.
It's about again the intentionality of it, being very strategic, um, using your network, using your skills, and you know creating something of value for yourself and your family that will leave a financial legacy for those you love.
How important do you think having a motivation that ties to other people is?
It's so important. It's actually the first chapter in my book.
Oh,
It's
is it
name
really?
your yeah, it's name your why. Because I became self-employed 4 years before we had our first son, our first child. Um, but I'm so glad I did. But I think having children has crystallized for me why it's so important to continue on this path. I applaud women who work a full-time job and commute every day. I used to have, when I lived in New York, a 1 hour and 10-minute commute each way every day from where I lived in Westchester County to New York City, where I worked in the Flatiron District. There is no way I could sustain that now as a mother of two, with young children. So I think having that why, whether it's you want to live a certain kind of lifestyle, autonomy is very important to you, or because you have children that you're caring for, or aging parents that you're caring for. A lot of us are in the sandwich generation too. I think having that why can sort of be your North Star to keep you going when things get hard, when you have a pain in the ass client, or when there's some funniness in the market like we're
Mm.
experiencing now with AI and an economy that on paper looks like it should be good, but it's kind of very unstable underneath. So I think having that why can keep you going and keep you motivated. And I'm not saying, sometimes people they're freelancers and they take on a full-time job or a full-time contractor for 3 months and then they come back. There's also room to do that too. In my situation, I haven't done it. I've been a freelancer full time, 12 years straight, no chaser, not, taking a full time job. But there are things, there are ways to pivot within this too.
So, talk to me a little bit, like beyond why.
hmm
How does Sada manage her mindset?
Hmm. It's something I'm still working on. It's a
Fair,
constant
fair.
work in progress. But one thing I'm focusing on lately is gratitude. Like I joined Substack. I started a Substack to promote my book, foreverfreelancer.substack.com. But as a byproduct of that, I have seen so many other Substacks that are of value have such great content. And one of them, Alex L., she's a New York Times bestselling author, and she has a Substack called Gratitude Journal. And it's about like establishing a gratitude practice. So that's something I'm just in the early stages of, but like just reminding myself to be grateful and look at how far you've come from
Mm.
where you started from being laid off and not knowing what you were going to do, working for $10 an hour in a testing center, grading standardized tests to, creating a multi seven figure business within a decade. Like anything's possible. So even sometimes we're in the valley or in the plateau of our freelance business, and it can be so easy to wallow there, and to wallow in self pity, or you're like, oh, what is going on? Things aren't great right now, but things will be better. It's just business. The business life cycle is cyclical. It is a life
For sure.
cycle. So you have to be prepared for ups and downs.
Do you journal gratitude, or is it more
No,
just thinking about it,
yeah, it's just thinking about it. I
thinking
should
about it?
journal more. I've tried. I'd like to type. My penmanship has gone to so I won't journal. No.
So, does anything else come to mind with managing mindset?
I meditate sometimes. I do some Peloton meditations. That helps. I think you just sometimes you need to pause and reflect. It's easy to just go, go, go. I also do what I like to call for me Fridays. And I use that day to rest and recharge. And usually it's Friday. Sometimes I have to pivot. Like this week, it was Thursdays. It took, that I didn't do any client work. But I think having a dedicated day, hour, time to yourself, to just sit and think about stuff and not always think about work is helpful too.
Do you schedule that, or is it more just you feel like your week isn't complete until you get that 1 or 2 hours in? How do you approach it?
It's the Fridays. The for me Fridays are my day to do that. And it may look like, oh, I'm going to get a massage today, even though I don't get them as often as I should, or I'm gonna go to this like event during the day and meet other people, because working by yourself can be very isolating. So that's my way to recharge and to connect with other people. Or I'm gonna focus on my creative projects um, today. That's how I started writing my book. I used all those Fridays to write a book. So it's doing something for myself, whatever that looks like, um, to sort of keep going, to sort of take a breather, rest, and then get up and keep going.
I mean, when I put together the 3 or 4 things you mentioned, it starts to sound powerful and effective. Taking a couple of hours once a quarter, or at least a couple times a year, to say, what do I want? Where am I going? What do I need to do? Gratitude. For me, Fridays seems like all of that would contribute to clear headedness, which would then help you with like intentionality.
Yeah, and those are all things that I've implemented within the last few years. Because when you're building a business, when you're in the mud and the muck and mire, you're not thinking about balance or how do I personal growth or mindset. You're just trying to like get a steady paycheck and stabilize your income. You're not thinking about all these woo woo, quote unquote, touchy feely things.
Yeah.
But I think as you grow your business, as you become an advanced freelancer, those things are so important for making your business sustainable long term.
Well, I've never talked to an advanced freelancer who didn't graduate in part because of intentionality, and that intentionality necessarily bled over into mindset. And I think that's what's so frustrating for people who want to go from like, let's say less than $60 to $75,000 a year. They're below that and they see this glass ceiling and they're like, I want to break through that. And all the more advanced people are talking about mindset and they're like, wow, wow, wow. like what can be more frustrating than hearing exactly like what could be more frustrating than hearing people who seem like they're at the level above you talk about mindset? And yet, I mean, beyond mindset, it's kind of like, what else is there? Now, there's like incremental gains in skill. But anyway, before I get off on a rabbit trail, talk to me about the book. What is it called? How long did you spend writing it? When is it available? And what's next for you?
So the book is called The Forever Freelancer, and I named it that because I think so often people view freelancing as transitional or a stopgap. And I really wanted to signal loud and clear that this is a viable long-term career and way of working. So I started working on the book in February 2025. I got to, can we curse on here? My shitty first draft in 7 months. So by September, actually, my shitty first draft was in July. And that was really, I finished the first draft of the book in July. But
That's
I,
impressive.
yeah, but then when going back and looking at it, I'm like, oh, I need more reporting here. I need to interview other freelancers. So it was like
Yeah.
a minimal viable draft, MVD. So by September, I had a really good working first draft that I turned over to my developmental editor, and then the process really got started. And I think I underestimated because I've been a journalist and a professional writer for 18 years. I thought the process would be more straightforward than it is. Where writing a book is an entirely different beast. It requires an entirely different skill set than being a freelancer and doing client work every day. Um, and I had to learn that. I had to learn this new skill as I was writing the book. So I finished the book in a year. It's gone through several edits. I built what I've called a solo publishing house. So I've hired other female independent business owners to help me bring this book to life, from my book coach, again, coaching, again, I realize the importance of that, my developmental editor, my copy editor, proofreader, audiobook producer, uh, designer, have a book marketing coordinator, all women that I've, worked with and collaborated with to bring this book out to the world and to readers. So the book comes out in June. Exact publish date TBD. We've started marketing it. It is going through the final round of edits. It's being laid out now, and then it'll be proofed. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm excited for it. It really does provide a step-by-step roadmap for how to build a thriving solo creative business. But it also includes that mindset stuff. It includes things about balancing caregiving and freelancing and being a business owner, achieving true work life integration, because it really is focused on women. And these are some of the things that are unique to us that we deal with as we are trying to build our careers.
Things that don't get talked about nearly as often, right? We often, and maybe men are especially prone to this, talk about building a business as though it's something that can happen in a vacuum, as though you're never going to have health challenges, or as though you'll never have to um, be the one to go pick up the kid at school who's sick, right?
Yeah.
Um, did you record the audiobook yourself, or did you hire voice talent?
I am recording it starting April 13th.
Okay.
Or sorry, I'll have to go go back. But yeah, I haven't started recording it yet. But I am doing it myself, and I feel I would not want someone to narrate it for me.
Number one, I think it's awesome that you're doing it. Number two, I agree. I want to record my own audio versions. And number three, I have not recorded an audio version of Free Money because I didn't get around to it. So I'm really glad you are.
Well,
Can
if you need a
people,
recommendation, I have someone that you can use. I'm going up to Vermont actually to record it.
oh, that's smart. So knocking it out,
Yeah, in 3.5, 4 days, she said it would take, and that will translate into about a 5 to 6 hour audiobook.
which is so much more manageable than trying to, it doesn't sound manageable, but it just seems smart to block out 3 or 4 days, go do it, and then it's done.
Yeah, and she also had a remote recording option. So you're what, outside of Nashville? Like she would partner with a studio, and you could just go there to record remotely, and she would kind of like dial in and guide you through the process over the same like 3.5, 4 day time period. I'm just choosing to go to Vermont because I'm in the Boston area. It's 4 hours away. So
And it's
I
also
thought if
Vermont.
I'm gonna do yeah, and if I'm gonna do a book, let me do it full gusto.
So this is a another investment that you are making in yourself and
Yeah.
in your career, without uh, letting the cat out of the bag. This book is a big piece of IP that you will have.
Yeah.
Do you have plans to do more with that IP? Will it expand, or is right now the book just going to stay a book?
No, I think the goal with the book, I have multiple goals. I want to build a thought leadership brand around women in the future of work. So this is sort of the first piece in that, uh, three-legged stool or whatever it is. But I also want to do pivot into book ghostwriting and author building my own author business. And it's like a chicken or the egg syndrome where it's like to ghostwrite a book, you have to have written a book, you know, you have to prove you've done it before. So that is one way I'm doing this. And this obviously that will help my base business, the business I've had for a long time, to make that more resilient and to diversify that business. But then I'm also building a personal brand, which is funny because as freelancers, we help our clients execute their vision and their strategy, and we can sort of hide behind that. But now, like building a personal brand or a thought leadership brand, I have to bring myself more to the forefront, and that's been I don't want to say disconcerting, but eye-opening in a way. You feel exposed when you are
Oh, for
putting
sure.
yourself out there. And I'm sure you've had this experience when I'm putting myself out there on Instagram or TikTok or Substack and writing about things and you're like, are people reading? Am I getting views? Am I getting likes? And you can't do it for that reason. You really have to do it for yourself and keep going even without that external validation right away.
It's it has been uncomfortable for me to build the brand. It was always
It doesn't
so
seem like it, Austin.
well, but I guess I've been doing it since 2019. So I'm
Mhm.
in deep enough now where it's gotten at least more familiar. But it's still strange when you're thinking, I need attention in order to spread messages that I care about, that and ideas and messages and ideas that I think can transform other people's lives. But I still have maybe a conflicted relationship with the need for attention. And I'll just leave it at that.
Exactly.
I have one final question before we just talk about where people can find you. Okay, there have got to be people listening who have a book in the back of their minds and it seems
Mhm.
so daunting. What advice would you give just about the process of making a book? I mean, you mentioned hiring a book coach, you mentioned hiring a developmental editor, you mentioned building a whole team, but with the actual writing of it, what advice would you give?
I love this question, Austin. I think one, you need to work and write to your rhythm. I am a morning person. I've been a morning person since I was 5 years old. I am not good after 9 p.m. work wise. So I knew that to write this book, I had to do it very early in the morning, especially alongside my client work. So people aren't gonna like to hear this, but I would wake up 4:30 in the morning regularly, Friday through Sunday, to write this book to get my 2 hours of writing in. Um, I would also say tell people what you're building or what it is you want to do. Make them stakeholders in your dream, help them buy into your dream. I could not have done this without my husband and my mother and my sister helping with childcare, especially my husband. Like, Sheryl Sandberg says, like, who you marry is the most important decision you'll ever make for your career. And I could not have written this book without my husband, who also is a journalist, by the way, and a writer. So he understood. So if I needed extra writing time because I didn't hit my goal, and I said, on Sunday, I need to like 3 hours of writing time. Can you take the morning shift? No problem, Sada. Always. Never complained once. So I think
Mm.
so I think you need to know what your best writing hours are and make room for them in the midst of your paying client work because you still have a business to maintain. Help other people buy into your dream and help you along in the process to create time and space for you to do these things. Um, and I think just go for it. There will be no perfect conditions. There's no such thing as certainty. You have to just go for it anyway. Don't let your dreams sit idle. If you want to write a book, the best time to do it is now.
Schedule your dreams
Yeah.
and then invite other people into them. Give them a chance
Yeah.
to care about your dreams, which again can feel vulnerable, just like building a personal brand.
Yeah. And one other thing I will add, you cannot use the same framework you use in your client work to writing a book. It's it's not going to work. Like, I'm really focused in my client work on being ruthlessly efficient and getting things as close to a perfect draft as I feel as possible before I hand it into the client, because I want them to have to do as little work as possible to make it a viable product. You can't do that with creative writing. You have to sometimes let things sit. Sometimes you have to be okay with the words that are coming out on the page. This draft is crappy today. It's terrible. I can't believe I wrote this. But you need to go through that to get to the good stuff. Like I have a doc called Chapter Leftovers. There's whole sections of my book that I wrote that didn't make it in there, chapters that didn't make it in there, complete chapters I rewrote several times. And it was so frustrating to me. I was like, this is so inefficient. Like, what is going on here? But that is what the creative writing process entails. And it's different from business writing or freelance writing.
That's such good advice. If you don't check your expectation around that,
Mhm.
you will find what is an ordinary and natural writing process to be very dissatisfying. You'll think you're doing something wrong, it sounds like. Satta, thank you again for chatting with me. This was so rich and fun. When people hear this and they're eager to get a copy of this book, where can they go to join the wait list? We'll put that link in. We'll also put the link to any final book page. We'll put the link to your Substack in, but where do people go to find you beyond what I just mentioned?
So the best place right now is sattasarmah.com/book. And that is everything about the book you'll find there. And there's also a prompt where you can put in your email to get book launch updates and join my email list. So, and then once you go there, you'll see all the link to my Instagram, my Substack, the LinkedIn, all of that, all my socials. So
perfect. We'll make sure to link out to that. And again, thank you. And I have to believe that the best is yet to come.
Thank you so much, Austin. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, before you go, let me invite you to join our community for more established, advanced freelancers. It's called the Freelance Cake community. One member named Michelle had this to say: I'm just so impressed by the quality of the conversation that's happening in the group. The in-depth questions, experiments, and thoughts being shared are just so refreshing. And the other communities I'm a part of, it's all beginner questions, which is fine, but it's awesome to find a more advanced space where it's okay to ask more advanced questions. Thank you, Michelle. Here's a little more about the community. Each week we do live group coaching and live co-working. You get access to a massive resource library and obviously the community itself, which we host using Circle. Of course, the people are the best part of all this. It really helps to surround yourself with smart, accomplished, and optimistic people who are out there taking risks and building the businesses they really want. If that interests you, visit freelancecake.com/community to learn more and apply. You can find that link in the show notes. I hope to see you there.